Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the September 10th meeting of the Ontario School Board. We're calling our meeting to order now at 6 o'clock. We have a tobacco policy in place. There's no smoking within 100 feet of any school building. Please rise for the pledge. District Clerk, will you please call roll?
Trustee Knudsen,
Here.
Trustee Jerome,
Here.
Trustee Mitchell-Morrell, Trustee Goodrich, Trustee Hemingway Lynch, here. Trustee Raimondo, here. Trustee Bishop,
Here.
thank you.
Thank you. And here to welcome us tonight is Woodstock Principal Scott Richards.
Testing. All right. I'm going to hold it. It's too low. So first off, I just want to welcome all of you back to Woodstock Elementary. We had a very busy summer if you drove past the building, but I believe the board got quite a few updates as well. We did receive a new ventilation system, which is wonderful. I believe the ventilation system we had in the back of the building was from the 50s. So now you actually see ventilation on the exterior wall, in the ceiling, actually doing what it's supposed to do. So we're really excited that project is just about done. We also received exterior doors, interior doors, classroom doors, and if you get a chance to walk down the hallway, it does add a definite look to the hallway. All the doors are uniform, which is really nice. We also added additional flooring. If you came in the front door, you noticed the nice bright white floor. Definitely gets your attention when you come in the morning, but it does look good. We had a bunch of other different projects that did take place this year during the summer, and you know, some of them are still coming along, and some of them are done. This summer, too, teachers weren't really able to get into their classrooms as early as they typically are able to, but they did a great job. I mean, coming in at the end of August, with a little bit of time, they got their rooms ready. Custodial staff got the school ready. Kids came in first day. They didn't notice, which is what's really important. They came in, they had a great first day, great first couple of days, and it's been nice too having the fourth graders here too. We've been K-3 now since the time that I've been here, so now you see the fourth graders getting off the bus, maybe with their kindergarten sibling. Next year we'll see those same fourth graders as fifth graders. It really does add quite a different environment when you have the older students here, kind of acting as role models for the younger students. I did just want to take a little bit of my welcome to acknowledge Carrie Mickler. Last year she did receive tenure, but we did not acknowledge her publicly, so I figured I would use a little bit of my time to just share my letter that I wrote to the board last year and just kind of highlight some of the things that we love about her. Carrie is here. I saw her walk in. If she wants to wave, stand up. So Ms. Mickler was hired as a teaching assistant in the Ontario Central School District. Ms. Mickler originally provided school-based assistance for children in the 2-3 MAP program and throughout the building. Ms. Mickler currently serves as a teaching assistant in 2nd grade. I was impressed with the seamless transition Ms. Mickler made from the MAP program to 2nd grade classrooms. Not an easy thing to do, 2 different types of environments. Ms. Mickler is a highly respected member of her school community and the community in which we serve. I'm confident the district will continue to experience the same dedication, professionalism, and excellence that Ms. Mickler has demonstrated at the Woodstock Elementary School. Ms. Mickler is without exception an excellent communicator and shows great interest in seeing that everything is completed accurately and with meaning. Ms. Mickler never hesitates to seek clarification when needed. I've enjoyed watching Ms. Mickler continue to grow as a teaching assistant within our school district. Ms. Mickler is always quick to seek solutions and advice from the building administrator or her cooperating teacher or teachers when necessary to address problems or concerns as they arise. Ms. Mickler addresses each opportunity with an attitude of excellence and thoughtful consideration of possible solutions. Ms. Mickler's dedication to our students consistently exceeds expectations on many levels. The staff and students at the Woodstock Elementary School truly appreciate and value Ms. Mickler's skills and many talents. Ms. Mickler's knowledge of her students, keen insight, and professionalism is an asset to the district. With that being said, I'm glad that I had the opportunity to acknowledge Ms. Mickler's tenure appointment. Thank you.
I just wanted to add to that. When we realized that we had made the error of not publicly recognizing Ms. Mickler, I came and personally apologized. It was completely our error and there was nothing intentional there. And we are so pleased and proud to have her with us. And I wanted to publicly acknowledge that that was our mistake and we are so sorry. But I'm so pleased that all of your colleagues are here to celebrate you tonight.
And item 3.01, the Board of Education will recognize tenure. Carrie Mickler, having served a period of probationary status consistent with the education law of the state of New York and provisions to the Commissioner's regulations, and having received continuing satisfactory evaluations of performance, has been recommended and granted tenure status by the Superintendent of Schools and by the Board of Education, with a probationary period of March 19th, 2020 to March 18th, 2024. Certified Teaching Assistant Carrie Mickler is being recognized for having received tenure effective March 19th, 2024, with board approval on July 2nd, 2024. All right, we will move on to our presentation. We have our Pep Talk 360 folks with us tonight to review the virtual family support training provided to the district and recommendations moving forward. We have Mike Camargo, I know I'm going to mess it up, Camargo, and Amanda Dixon. Good to see you.
Oh,
You can pick it up and
all
take
right, there we go. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to present to you. My name is Mike Camargo. I'm a licensed mental health counselor and behavior analyst. I'm currently employed in the Ellenville Central School District.
I'm Amanda Dixon. I am a licensed mental health counselor and a registered play therapist. I have a group private practice in Poughkeepsie and have been working in the field like Mike has around 15 years or so now. And we really take seriously, which actually segues into probably our mission, was really what prompted us to start this, was this idea of working with caregivers, obviously in working with kids, but how do we increase engagement, right? The recognition that sort of connection to our children starts at home and with parents. Yes, our relationship with kids is absolutely vital and important in the work that we do, but the caregivers are just as equally important. So I don't know if you want to.
Yeah. So a brief history. So during the COVID shutdown, I was very much involved with Ulster BOCES and our reach out to staff and parents as well. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to reach parents, which we've kind of discovered here as well. So we are going to present you some ideas in terms of like what we think might be helpful. But I do know across the board, engaging parents, even in our own private practice, can be very challenging. We often get parents that are saying, well, it's my child that's the problem, and helping them to kind of reflect on their own parenting. We're both parents, and we always start every talk about we are very imperfect parents. And we'll even share our own challenges with our own kids. I like to joke that if you saw me in the supermarket, you'd say you should find another career. But it's difficult to be a parent, right? And I think that it's also difficult sometimes to recognize that I could be doing something different and to try something different. So we started our pep talks, really looking at talking to parents, educators, and professionals. And it's kind of evolved into really talking to, at this point, parents, and we work with the Ulster County YMCA to provide staff training in a lot of the things that we talk about: ADHD, autism, behavioral strategies, effective communication skills, relationship building, to the staff that run their after-school programs as well. I don't know if Auntie, or do you work with the YMCA as well? You don't. So, but a number of districts throughout the county do. And so we meet with them virtually, but then also in person a couple times a year to provide those in-staff trainings too on those topics. So as of last year, we provided a once-a-month virtual session for caregivers. We would do about a 1-hour talk, and then we have about a 30-minute Q&A. Some of the topics that we've talked about really just improving positive relationships, managing problem behaviors, emotional regulation, and then specific topics on like autism, ADHD, relationship building. We've done a number of them. Yep.
Yeah, so a pretty wide range of potential supports for parents, but like Mike has said, what we have noticed in our experience is sort of this lack of engagement. And again, that's what we're going to talk a bit about tonight, as well as what our hopes are for moving forward. So again, limited attendance. I mean, really like 1 or 2 people attending the talks from time to time. And so Mike and I have really kind of brainstormed around how do we try and get at this to really increase that, right? And to make what we're putting out there not marketable, but relatable to families, right? And the thing is, right, obviously acknowledging families are so overworked and overburdened. And so how do we make it that even though it's a virtual thing, isn't hard to kind of log on to, the acknowledgement that they have enough on their plates already, and how is what we can do and offer going to make it so that maybe they're going to want to be able to put aside the time to do that, which is a hard thing to do and to prioritize. So really we're taking the feedback that we got from the past talks, and we decided to put out a survey in July 2024 to the community to get a sense of what people were indicating, like what that looked like, what people were indicating they wanted to see. So we have a breakdown of 43 respondents and broken down by, you know,
I remember the numbers. It's so small. It's about 40% elementary, 20% middle school, and 40% high school responded. Parents were asked if they were aware of the talks. A majority of them, or if they were aware of the talks, would they attend? A majority said maybe. And approximately 30% or so said yes. And I do know that it was listed on the calendars, and there was a notice put up on the website. And so we also asked them in terms of like, well, perhaps it's the topics that we're talking about. Now there were some new topics that were presented, that were suggested that we had not done. So social media use came at number 1. And like the assumption is like how to curb that, right, and how to do it safely, be active and responsible electronic citizens. And then a couple of things too that we had done, like ADHD, depression, vaping was one, behavioral challenges, issues related to the LGBTQA community, a big one, school attendance, and then autism and school phobia. So we've touched on a number of these, but there were also some that we hadn't, that we are going to expand on. So we also asked about preferred days. Perhaps it's the day and time that we were offering. We were doing it at Wednesdays, later in the evening around 8. The suggestion was doing it a bit earlier, Mondays or Wednesdays at 6 or 7. So our assumption was that must be a really busy time, but it came in as the most preferred times. And so we're flexible. So if that's what the parents in your district are looking for, that's what we're going to offer.
So our proposed steps really are to do 10 talks, 60-minute workshops for the 2024-2025 school year with a 30-minute Q&A at the end, so a total of an hour and a half. We will set up to record those talks, so if nobody attends, it gives the opportunity for families to watch it on their time, which I think will be helpful in my mind, and obviously to share that with the district. We'll be providing a complimentary newsletter for caregivers focused on parenting and mental health. So, and obviously within that newsletter, being able to advertise the upcoming talks, just trying to get it out there even more and in different ways than we've done in the past. Topics covered will be geared towards the outcomes from the survey, as we've already mentioned. So really looking at school attendance, like we talked about, school phobia, social media, ADHD, etc. So really hitting those topics that, again, people demonstrated interest in, right? Which makes sense because we want to meet the needs of our community. So I want to see if anybody has any questions or feedback, right? The idea around, like, if you have ideas for engagement that we have missed. Yeah.
Hi. Oh, okay, cool. Hi. So my thought was we have open houses coming up. So perhaps if you have your flyer ready with a lot of this information, it could be handed out at our open houses for the beginning of the year. So parents, if they're like me, anything that comes in, I put it on my calendar, even if it's months in advance, so I know to hold that time slot. So it might be worth generating that sooner rather than later to put at open houses.
Sure, yeah, we can totally do that. Not a problem. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I just want to comment on the topics that you've chose. I've always found them to be almost exactly what's been on my mind as a parent. So I think your topics are wonderful and varied and always very appropriate for whatever issues many of us are working through. I would just say that I haven't been able to attend as the ones I want to and as the personal experience, but it's just because I have younger kids. So every evening, no 2 days are the same. And I have 3, so anything could happen. But I do actually participate in many parenting podcasts, and I was just wondering, I'm so glad you're recording it. I wondered if we could support that with, posting it on, for example, we just did a communications survey, and I serve on the communications committee, so 3 different ways I was thinking about sharing it. One is through email or ShoutPoint. ShoutPoint is like an announcement service that we have that goes out to all families. And then the third would be on the parent portal, because again, I don't know if you have the capability or if we do, John, but just to say that, maybe having it on the portal, like a podcast, you could just listen to it when you're walking your dog or whatever else, right? So I just wanted to offer those 3 opportunities, because we know from our wide communication survey that email is the number 1, ShoutPoint is the number 2 way people are getting information. And then, as Trustee Raimondo said, of course, just even the flyers and the backpacks are always helpful, but certainly open house is a perfect opportunity. Yeah. So just wanted to offer that as well. But thanks for all you do.
Yeah, no, I love that idea. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think any of the ways that we can give more exposure, totally. I love that. Yeah.
Trustee Knudsen?
Yeah, I just had a question about the mechanics about how the online sessions work, and because I was just looking at this list of topics that you're covering, and it seems to me that they tread into some areas that might raise privacy concerns for parents and or parents' concerns for their children's privacy if they're going to a public what seems like a semi-public event and talking about their kids' depression or vaping or whatever. If I'm a parent and I'm looking at this and I say, well, I'm interested in talking about these topics, but I'm scared about that aspect of it, is there some option, or how do you handle privacy concerns in the sessions?
I think one of my thoughts is, since they're virtual talks, right, if a person is logging on in Zoom, and we can make this clear, right, by a disclaimer, I agree with you, that they don't have to put their name in, their first and last name, they can make a name up. Really, the goal is, like, we don't need your kind of personal information in order to help support you. So I think that's one of the ways. Mike, I don't know if you have any other thoughts or suggestions?
I mean, we also do make clear in all of our talks, so we have like kind of like a boilerplate statement that this is not therapy. But we also state, like, we really can't address personal issues, right? So this is more information. Now, granted, do people bring up personal? Of course they do. But typically, in my experience, it's been the people that are more comfortable doing it. I think that we could offer a more private way for them to reach out to us individually. We do provide them with our email, and after every talk, we do, request that if they have questions or follow-ups to reach out to us. I don't know if that might be helpful for them as well.
Yeah, I mean, I was just asking because hearing that you're only having 1 or 2 people show up to each session, I'm wondering what's stopping people from coming, and I just thought that might be one of them.
No, that's a good point.
I'll just share historically, because I used to be the Director of People Personnel Services, and from the start of my career in Onteora, which was the 2011-12 school year, we tried to bring in specialists to speak. At the time, we were doing it in person, and we would get the same, 2, 3, 4 parents every month, and I think it's just really, really hard to, and it was harder then because I had to come in person, but people are really, really busy.
Absolutely.
Caroline?
Speaking to this idea of attendance, I think I have seen these things come in, and it's usually sort of a save the date kind of announcement. One of the things when we talk about chronic absenteeism or we talk about social media uses, we just call it that topic without talking about the benefits of a discussion around it or a statistic around it or a benefit of going to a conversation like this. It's really just to save the date that we're having a talk. And I wonder if your messaging could start to talk about the benefits. Like, did you know that this is affecting this portion of our high school students? We want to help. Join us. Vaping continues to be one of the top causes of XYZ. We want to help. We want to talk about this as a community. I think that there's a messaging piece, just from what I've seen, that could be a little bit more, engaging is the word.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Trustee Mitchell-Morrell? Sorry, I missed you.
Hi, this sounds great. I was wondering, what were we doing before? Like, because I heard of it as a board member, but I don't think I ever heard about it from the parent side. Like, I know we talk about it in district news or something like that, but how else were we doing it before? I'm just curious.
I think it was going out in some emails, but it was also posted on social media and on the website.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes with these things too, you have to hear it like 2 or 3 times before, so like definitely the open house, but then like flyers at the talent show, like kind of just like keep it going until it starts to sink in. I think that's part of it.
I just want to add, so just to let everyone know, we did have flyers at open houses last year. We also, I believe, had Mike and Amanda come to our Bennett carnival, like trying to have people come at engaging big turnout events. Perhaps to plug our Meet, Greet, and Eat would be something to look at. And we have worked with our psychologists, social workers, and school counselors to have this information ready to be able to provide it to our parents for more individualized support. Just wanted to comment on Trustee Knutson's wonderful question about privacy. One of the things we might also want to work on, Amanda and Mike, is just making sure you have our resources of important mental health staff here, so that we know how we can refer our parents to other specialists within our districts to help support them. So we can work on that together.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Mike and Amanda. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Say that when we did the survey, there was so much about community. So again, just another messaging piece could be like getting into conversation with the community and really positioning it as that rather than just topic specific, because we do have people who do want to be part of these conversations. But just another suggestion.
Thank you very much. Item 5.01 is acceptance of minutes. The Board of Education hereby accepts minutes of the August 27th, 2024 meeting. May I have a first? Trustee Mitchell-Morel, second. Trustee Raimondo. Any questions or comments? All right, we'll vote. Trustee Knudsen?
Aye.
Trustee Mitchell-Morel?
Aye.
Trustee Jerome?
Aye.
Trustee Lynch?
Aye.
Trustee Raimondo?
Aye.
Okay, great. That's unanimous. Thank you. And on to Superintendent's District News.
Good evening again. I actually wanted to touch base on something that Principal Richards said when he was remarking that the custodial staff in this building did an amazing job. I don't think I've ever had this happen before. I was walking down the hall before school started, and two of our incredibly, just incredible staff were kneeling down, and they had painters taped off a small section and were looking at it because it was not waxed and polished to their standards. I mean, they are so incredible, right? Very detailed, very proud of their work, and it shows, and the buildings looked amazing. So I've never seen that before, but I am not surprised, and I am so proud. I wanted to start off by letting everyone know that our board president, Bishop, has received a New York State School Boards Association award, the Board Excellence Award. Congratulations. The opening of school this year was, again, one of the smoothest to date. Our transportation department and our contractor have done an excellent job. Many of our bus runs are actually shorter this year due to the efficiencies of having fewer total bus runs at the elementary level. Some of our bus runs that were persistently late historically are no longer, which is a welcome change and was noted here in this building even this week. Our students are doing really well at the middle high school. The integration of the 6th grade into the middle school has been just a wonderful change. It's like a breath of fresh air. A number of middle school and even high school faculty have noted to us that the 6th graders came in with a sense of enthusiasm that they are not accustomed to seeing with the traditional 7th graders. It's really true. We all kind of notice this energy shift just seeing them walk through the building between classes in the lunchroom. Anyone who is among them finds themselves sort of involuntarily smiling. They just have such a different energy. Our school board representative is going to be approved tonight, and I'm excited to welcome Olivia McHugh to the board table. I've asked Principal Edelman to schedule a meeting with her and I so that I can share the board policy with her and answer any questions she may have about the role. We've been really fortunate to have many exceptional students in this role in previous years. I'm sure she will continue this tradition. We are also pleased with our students and the new cell phone policy at the secondary. It has been noted to me personally, and I've certainly seen statements online as well, that students are much more engaged without the distraction of the phones, and I have heard nothing to indicate that it's been a real struggle to date. So, you know, everything changes and we evolve and we grow, but this seems to be going very well. An update on our Phoenicia campus. We have had continued correspondence with the county executive's office. I would encourage board members and members of the public as well to communicate to the county executive and our legislators a desire to move forward with the reuse of this building that could be a wonderful community asset. We are meeting with representatives from the county executive's office and the town at the campus this week so they can walk around and become familiar with the building and the property. Assistant Superintendent LeClaire and our Director of Facilities, Kyle Hargis, will be joining me so that any questions they have, hopefully we can, between the three of us, answer. I wanted to touch base on superintendent goals for this year. I'd like to propose that my goals this year continue the work we began last year and then add on an additional area of focus. We certainly need to continue to work toward the capital project and the vote that will be in May of this school year. In addition, I'd like to continue to focus on our communications plan in conjunction and collaboration with the Board Communications Committee. And although those initiatives will be time-consuming and require a significant amount of work, I also would like to plan on moving forward to support the resolution that was adopted by the board related to diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. I believe that's also a very long-term initiative, that there is a lot to do. And if you look through the resolution, which I did share with our entire faculty and staff at opening day, just as a kind of a preview, and to let them know that if they had missed it last year, that this had happened and that this would be work that we'd be embarking on this year. In terms of the work that we had begun last year for the capital project and the vote, we have had one meeting with Sharon Lepofsky to kind of discuss with her the scope of work that she could consider for the current school year in order to build on the work that we had partnered on last year. She's planning on bringing a proposal to us that we could then bring to the board at the next meeting in September. In addition, we're also going to meet with our architects this week to review kind of our expectations for this coming year and potential timeline and scope of work for them as well. And once we have Ms. Lepofsky's agreement in place, then it's really imperative that she work closely with both us and the architects. We had a high-level discussion of the plan for this year, including how to bring student voice into this process, as well as to really get faculty and staff. Those components were not well represented in the process we had last year, so we want to make sure that we engage those groups. And we also need to make sure that there are multiple opportunities to bring draft plans to the community for review and discussion, so that we can utilize community input to refine them before we bring anything to a vote. This really is a process that will need to include as many voices as possible, and I think it's imperative that the architects and Ms. Lepofsky work together with us so that it's kind of a seamless process.
Thank you. Any questions for Superintendent? Trustee Knudsen?
Yeah, so I remember last time in the phases of the capital project, it was mentioned that the very first step was an existing space sort of audit or review. Has that been completed?
We have not gotten that yet. That's part of why we want to meet with them this week, because, you know, I think our architects are wonderful and they are very responsive, but they have a lot of clients, so we need to get on their calendar and continue to be at the top of their list. And that's on our list of things to discuss this week.
Great. And when you have it, you'll share it with the board. And
absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Great. Thank you. All right. Board district news. Trustees, anything? Trustee Raimondo?
Olive Day. We had a great time at Olive Day. We had shifts and people came out and we were able to talk to the community, and we managed rain and got to see faces and have nice chats, and it was a nice time. So I'm really grateful that we have the opportunity to attend, and I look forward to going next year and maybe watching the frog race. I didn't get to watch it this year.
I was very remiss in not mentioning Olive Day and thanking the town of Olive, because our Bennett Elementary School was featured on the Olive Day shirt this year, and that was really wonderful to see, and we very much appreciate it.
And I'll just say that it was a pleasure to be set up right next to our dynamic booster club, which also they do such a great job, and it was great to see them engaging with the community as well. Trustee Lynch?
Happy to add, I think what's important is giving the community the visibility and access and opportunity to connect specifically with you, Superintendent McLaren. So I really appreciate the time you offered, and also to the Buildings and Grounds crew. I'd say the one perk potentially of being on the board is having a tent at Olive Day, particularly during a downpour. So thank you so much to the Buildings and Grounds team who set that up.
Anything else? All right. On to acknowledgement of public be heard. There were no speakers at our last meeting. Are there any speakers tonight? All right. So we will move on to discussion and possible action. Item 10.01, the Board of Education hereby approves Olivia McHugh as our student representative of the Board of Education for the 2024-2025 school year. May I have a first? Trustee Knudsen, second Trustee Lynch. Any questions or comments? All right, we'll vote. Trustee Knudsen?
Aye.
Trustee Mitchell-Morrell?
Aye.
Trustee Jerome?
Aye.
Trustee Lynch?
Aye.
Trustee Raimondo?
Aye.
Me too. That's unanimous. All right. Item 10.02 is the continued discussion of the board's self-evaluation. I was able to get information from two board presidents and shared that with you all. Do you guys have any questions or comments or any suggestions or anything before we move on and maybe contract with Super Eval? Trustee Jerome?
I guess I'd just say in terms of the library funding that I think that as such a big presence in the district and this vision that we have of supporting the community, I would be I'm very supportive of, the library funding and just having a good relationship with these other parts of the community that are offering. And I know that's where you're headed, but I just want to say that I support that.
Trustee Mitchell-Morrell?
I'm just wondering, so the board self-evaluation would be kind of tied in with a retreat, or I'm just wondering how those relate?
I think the way that I see it is that we would do the self-eval, which could be done fairly quickly, once we have the contract and we have access to it. It could take, a day for us to do that. And in the meantime, we can plan to have a retreat to really just start off by discussing the self-eval and then determine where we want to go from there in terms of professional development. Any other questions about that? Comments? Amanda, do we have to vote on this, or is this just...
No, I had contacted Bob Hartz for the contract, but we haven't received that yet, so we should be able to vote on that next meeting, I would assume.
Is everyone comfortable moving forward with the contract? Okay, great. Okay, good, thanks. On to item 10.03, the continued discussion of the public library funding. Any comments about that? Trustee Knudsen?
So I read the document that was attached to the agenda, and it still seems to me that our role is just to schedule the vote. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. But what we did, we put a process in place, as you saw from the email. They're not interested in doing anything for this upcoming vote. If in the future they approach us, we now have a process, we will just give them the process and we'll go from there.
Trustee Lynch?
I'm so sorry, Assistant Superintendent Leclerc, do you mind just repeating yourself? You said that they don't want us to add a proposition on this vote.
Correct.
Okay, but when they do,
if and when they ever do, we now have a process in place with dates and what they need to do in order for it to happen. And just as a side note, I don't remember if I had made it clear. Yeah. Any increase or any taxes that we collect on their behalf is not part of our tax cap levy.
They used to be voted for like separately at separate times, and now we're just talking about voting them all at once?
Not
No.
necessarily.
Okay.
They are currently voted separately. We just have additional funding within our budget that we give to the libraries. They can increase either their own, like if they do it through the town, or if they do it, I know West Hurley's just passed, or they can ask to have it added to ours. I think one of the reasons that they probably will not be adding it to ours is because it makes it, they still have a tax levy cap. So our 20,000 that we give them is part of their tax levy cap. So I can only imagine how difficult it must be to actually figure out what their cap is, because it's hard when you just have one funding stream. So yeah, but they still do have to follow the cap, and it is not part of our cap.
Any other questions or comments? So we don't need to take any action at this time. All right, we'll move on. Item 10.05, 10.04, continued discussion of creating a board dashboard. And I think this would be an opportunity for trustees that are interested in that to just talk a little bit about what it is that you are hoping for, what that would look like, that sort of thing. Trustee Lynch?
Would you like me to start? Because I was the one that proposed it. Okay. Would please welcome everybody's input. And I'm sorry that Trustee Goodrich isn't here, because I know he also is quite interested in talking about, broadly the use of data and data systems and data management. But the idea of a dashboard is very similar to what we all receive actually each meeting, typically with the snapshot of our enrollment figures, for example. Typically, a board of any institution, but particularly a school board, may be in need of strong data in order to make decisions or be able to see a bigger picture or a complex issue. And so what has been typically helpful is to think about how we could potentially organize our goals and ask the administration for the appropriate data to support those goals. Or I've seen it done where if you're anticipating a decision being made or a practice changing potentially, you may request certain kinds of data so that you're prepared to make those kinds of decisions, evidence-based decisions, particularly as we know about like the impact of foundation aid, for example. If we have to prepare ourselves for an inevitable cut at some point down the line, we want to know what kinds of data we have that's easily attainable that would help us make that kind of decision. So you've seen some of the great reports that Assistant Superintendent LeClaire has given us around like the pie chart, right? Around how much, what's fixed funding versus where we have some discretion when we go through our budget cycles. So there's lots of different ways we could be thinking about this, but I thought when I've been just doing some research about the highly effective school boards, this is always present, and it's just something we've never had in my time here. And I wanted to just, one, have an open conversation about what kind of data do we have, what kind of data systems or data management teams, because certainly we don't want to create anything that's onerous, particularly to maintain for a board. But where could we utilize some of this kind of just a management tool to help us with our decision making? And the other example I'll give actually came from the Rural Schools Association conference. A couple of us participated in a discussion. Oh goodness, and I don't have the notes in front of me, but it was the Franklin Covey discussion about 7 successful. Thank you. There it is, 7 habits of highly successful people. And they're using a framework, but we could adapt it where they talked about having what they called sort of a wildly important goal, their WIG, a W-I-G, wildly important goal for the school. And not only does every board member sort of think about their contribution to that, but also the administration, also the staff, and even in some schools, the school up at Lake George was there presenting their data. Their kids have the same goal, and they talk about and hold themselves accountable to how they're helping to achieve that goal. And it talks about how that brings community and cohesion and accountability and belonging in a way that is really just utilized. And I'm sure there's a million tools that they'd want to sell us to be able to do it, but it just wanted you to have that concept of providing everybody with sort of the useful data where for their situation, they were talking about absenteeism as their sort of wildly important goal. And so each of them had a role to play in that. They had a goal of reducing it by X%. And so everybody talked about what they could do to achieve that goal. And stats and data were a huge part of keeping people motivated and engaged. So just wanted to offer that as another example.
Trustee Jerome?
Wild Wing or North Star, that's another popular way of thinking about it. I think that, yeah, it strengthens organizationally, external audiences. Like, we all know what we're doing and we all know what we're working towards. And these KPIs or, whatever, we can figure that out. I'm curious, do you already have aside from enrollment you mentioned and absenteeism, what other things, I'm so curious to hear, not to put anybody on the spot, but maybe continuing this conversation, things that you've thought would be, that you look at every month with the assistant superintendents that you're tracking or over quarterly, or is this something that we're all working on to figure out what's important together?
I would say that different areas look at different things, and not necessarily monthly or sometimes quarterly, sometimes monthly. It depends on the topic. Our MTSS teams are just starting this year, so that's really where our regular and consistent data is going to be looked at. But, annually, our assistant superintendent for curriculum looks at all of our test scores and make sure that all of our faculty have access to all of that data. There are a lot of things that are looked at regularly, but not necessarily on the same cycles. And in the business office, you guys, the board receives the financial reports every month, and that's actually the most consistent reporting procedure that we have. And if there's information in there that you would like a cover sheet that has a particular set of highlights, that could be incorporated into that reporting.
That was one more. So you mentioned test scores, chronic absenteeism is something that's coming up in different learning sessions with NSBA. Like, there are some really primary discussions going on. It seems like around New York State, it would be great to be able to have an at a glance, and I'm sure they're in some way trackable.
I was just reading today in the, I think the latest issue of NSBA's On Board, that they are going to shift and not focus on chronic absenteeism and instead look at a different attendance metric, which I think is going to be a real change and helpful.
Any other input or questions? Trustee Jerome?
I'm talking too much, but I love this idea. It's just figuring out the things that would really bring us value to look at, that we would be like, yes, we're moving the needle here, right? So that's maybe akin to our board goals. But, and it is a longer conversation, but yeah, I think that's what I wanted to say. We've established our board goals, or is it around DEI, but how can we promote those goals by looking at trying to track them somehow, trying to see our progress, making sure that whatever we're tracking does have value and isn't just, easy to track, but is meaningful towards that North Star that you mentioned.
Trustee Knutson? No? Okay. Trustee Lynch? No. Trustee Raimondo?
I guess the three questions that I have are, I feel like when we ask questions that the administrative team is extremely responsive with the data asks that we have. So, and my second question would be the cost that would be incurred in this. And then the third question is how much time and who would be dedicated to giving us, inputting that into a dashboard. So, those are my three questions around that, because I've never not gotten what I've asked for when I've had questions. It might take time to turn that data around. It might not be instant, but it's always provided when we ask for it. So.
Right. Those are my questions too, and I guess my other question would be what avenue would we be seeking? Are we looking for a product, a company? We already have board docs, which does hold all the information that we discuss, and also our requests for information are in board docs as well. Trustee Lynch, you mentioned highly effective boards are using dashboards. I'm wondering what methods they're using, and if there's a way that we can find out.
I can just respond to that. Thank you. I think those are all the right questions. I think the one thing that I can commit to, I think, is maybe potentially as we progress our own board goals, is to continuously ask the question, what data does the school collect that demonstrates progress towards these goals? Or, how will those goals be measured? Just something that continuously keeps us thinking in those terms. Because again, you don't want this to become onerous, and I think that's where you're headed. At the same time, I do think it's the responsibility of a decision-making board with fiscal responsibility and student achievement to understand the bigger picture. And we just don't have the big picture right now. Things are changing all the time, and with the exception of the enrollment forms, which I think have been really helpful just in terms of, even if it's osmosis, we get it quite regularly, and you start to see, oh, I understand how this is so variable. I understand how things are also, on a steady decline in that regard. So, you start to think about it when you have that data in front of you. I just use that as an example. And I think as we think about other important topics that I think you're right should be aligned with our goals, I do think it's incumbent on the administration to support us with the data as needed. Not that they have been remiss. I'm saying that I think it's just having that bigger picture for us to be able to make tougher decisions and ensure that they are evidence and data-based. The 4 disciplines of execution for education, according to the strong school boards, is to focus on the goals, which we do every year, act on either lead measures or lag measures, right? Meaning, what are you seeing that's indicating progress or decline towards that goal? Keep a compelling dashboard, and then create a cadence of accountability. Those were the 4 steps that they recommended. I'm happy to at least do our part in each of our conversations to sort of ask some of those questions. We do that anyway. I think we've talked about SMART goals in the past, so I agree with you, Trustee Raimondo. But I just think we could be crisper in our execution around compelling data and then using it for decision making and accountability.
To be continued? For sure. Okay. And Trustee Raimondo, you did reach out, or who reached out? You did to Board Docs, because they have
I asked Amanda to do that, and she did a great job. Do you want to speak to that at all and let us know just where we're at with it?
So Board Docs has 3 versions. We currently have the light version. There's a pro version and a plus version. So I contacted 8 different schools, heard back from 4 district clerks. 2 of them use pro, 2 of them use light. Everyone is extremely happy with what they're using, but no one had went from light to pro. So I don't know what the difference is. So I had contacted Board Docs to ask for a demo of all 3, because maybe there's also a feature in light that we're not utilizing. So I'm just waiting to hear back. It did say it could take 3 to 5 business days to hear. So I had sent an email Friday of last week. So hopefully I'll hear something, and then I will share the demos when I get them.
Great, thank you so much. Trustee Lynch?
Thank you, Ms. Gates, that's really helpful. I think the other idea I just had that you made me think of it is I believe that the person from that presentation on the Franklin Covey presentation also offered to follow up. So if it's useful, we could also ask them if they've got samples or examples that might integrate with Board Docs. I know that she had reached out to each of us, so we haven't responded.
Right, as long as we're sure that, I mean, you know, I don't want to get involved with an initiative that we are not interested in pursuing. That would be, you know, something specific to the presentation that we saw from Lake George Elementary School. You know what I mean? It would have to be something that's going to work for us and be what, you know, what would improve our success. Trustee Jerome?
Yeah, the inference isn't ever that you don't give us what we ask for. It's to have, when you have a dashboard and you're able to look at legacy data, you start to have insights that can support these goals. I think that that's my main interest, is just like, is this a way that we could, a practical tool for moving the district in the direction that we decide we want it to go? I mean, that it's headed anyways, but you know what I mean.
Okay, to be continued. Great, thanks everyone. Item 10.05 is discussion of the creation of our 2024-25 board goals. I'd like to start the conversation off just by saying that Superintendent LeClaren has given us her goals, or her hopes for her goals. And, you know, we already know that we have some really big initiatives going on right now. I think the biggest one is the capital project and the potential for the bond vote in May of 2025. And I was really hoping that one of our goals would be to move forward on the initiative for the DEI and B resolution. And certainly, I forgot the third one. It was just on the tip of my tongue. Oh my gosh, the communication, how could I forget? The continued work on the long-term communication plan. So I'd love to hear from anybody with other suggestions. And yes, Trustee Mitchell-Morrell.
I just have a general question. What happens to our old goal? Do we keep it, or it's just like we start over completely?
I think that I know last year we kind of took our 22-23 goals, which were gigantic, and we shrunk them down and made them, I think, more manageable in fewer words, but with the same general thought in terms of a goal. Now I feel like we're in a more specific goal place where we have to really fine-tune our goal. But, you know, it's totally open for conversation. Trustee Lynch?
Yeah, thank you, Trustee Bishop. I was just curious, could you say more about the board's role in the year ahead in the DEIB resolution? What would that look like?
I don't know that the board has a role in that, but it would be, in my opinion, it would be our goal to see that an initiative starts to come alive, so that there would be a team or a group of people, you know, teachers, administrators, students, community members working on a plan to put in place to make it a clear initiative for our district to be able to support the resolution as it's written. Yeah. You know, it's a supporting role. I mean, like so much of what we do really is a supporting role. You know, we sort of set the standard, and then the administration and the, you know, the leadership, teachers, community, students take it from there. Trustee Jerome, and then we'll come back to Trustee Lynch.
Yes, I think that through that supportive role, it's also encouraging programs or initiatives that would be in service of this this particular thing. I will take the opportunity to say what I would love to see is a little bit more specificity in the general description, which is very good, about the modern-centered programs that serve our district. Music and the arts, I feel like we do that better than most. I think that that's one of the reasons we have such a great community, is these kids like go and make things together and deliver them. And I would love to see some language around STEAM or the arts, or just really letting people know that we care about diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, but also that the arts are part of a 21st century education. And so that's just a thought that I'll throw out there.
I remembered what I was going to say. I think, I guess one of the issues that I have, and maybe it's something similar to what you were thinking, Trustee Mitchell-Morrell, about last year's goal, is that, you know, I like that it's focused on the long-term plan and not on a capital project. Like, it's bigger than our buildings. We've been saying that from the beginning. And I think we need to maintain that language in our goals and our goal setting. So I just wonder if, and not to make another mega goal, it's not the intent, but I just wonder if we could use more of that language as we think about the work ahead of us this year, because there's so much that we learned from those sessions that Sharon Lepofsky facilitated and other conversations we've had with administrators about, you know, this sort of student-centered, modern, you know, and high quality. All of that's actually in the last goal, but that we want a long-term goal that serves these purposes. A long-term plan that serves these purposes. An output of that is the work that will be implemented by the administrators with, you know, financial advisors and architects, but that's not our piece. And so I think we want to make sure we're thinking about, the wording there.
Very good reminder. Trustee Mitchell-Morrell?
I love the idea of, keeping the century global citizenship with this, more, kind of topical, modern, in the moment DEI initiative and the arts and music. I just like the idea of, saying who we are a little more and, positioning us. It's as a progressive school where specific things are happening. I think in some ways long-term that could help with enrollment too, because I think private school or homeschooling thinks they're the progressive ones, and it's but we are too. Come see us, I want to have a thing and be, I like how it defines us a little more instead of just this random rural school, and not this general language, but something specific that we can all be proud of.
Good points. Trustee Lynch?
I wonder, it would also serve this communications priority as well, but I wonder what just generally what the appetite would be from our colleagues around a campaign, like a communications campaign. As we think about the lead up to the vote in May, as we think about, communicating with our community about what we are trying to achieve, whether it's, the vision that Trustee Mitchell-Morrell just laid out or others, I was wondering if there's appetite for that kind of effort.
Could you be more specific?
I might call on my colleague with a comms and marketing background, but a campaign is typically a coordinated set of efforts with, one goal in mind, and we're utilizing multiple different platforms in order to create a kind of messaging and compelling action. So like in any sort of a vote that's happening potentially in November, you've seen multiple campaigns take shape around that vote. We have also a vote coming in May that will require a lot of education, a lot of engagement from our community. So we may also want to employ a campaign in order to support the larger vision of the Ontario School District's long-term plan.
I thought I was answering your question, but I'm not sure I am, or your suggestion. For the vote, certainly Holly Brucker and her staff are very experienced in doing the lead up to a capital project vote. They often do multiple campaign type activities. Obviously the newsletter is typical, but she often does videos and additional poster boards and flyers and community engagement. So from that perspective, absolutely. But if you're I'm not sure, you were leading into another campaign, I think, and I wasn't following that.
Yeah, no, I was just wanting to have a dialogue about the energy level for something like that. But yeah, I think that in general, of course, we'll certainly maintain a strong push with the support of our BOCES colleagues on communicating. I'm just thinking about helping potentially put resources into, a long-term communication strategy or other things that will come from the BOCES team who would implement it. Certainly, I'm not suggesting it wouldn't be anybody else, but just in terms of how we're approaching the year, is there energy around a campaign where we would have metrics and such that we're thinking about, are we attracting new families to the schools? Are we, what kind of outreach are we doing? That kind of thing, a sort of a concerted effort.
Trustee Jerome?
Yeah, so parallel campaigns perhaps, like one would be about the vote primarily. All of them would be in support of this North Star, or whatever we want to call this goal as we refine it. But it could be around enrollment, it could be just around what makes our district great, it could be around an event, I don't know, but that we start to do more of that, which Holly has been incredible, right? We're really starting to do this in a more proactive way, and just thinking about different ways and different channels, and which we already are, but different ways we can promote the district.
So really promoting some excitement and really getting people behind this initiative and all that. Right.
All of it serving whatever this is, whatever the specific, the special sauce of Onteora, what makes us unique. And there are many things, and we are all full of Onteora pride here. And talking about those and promoting them and being proud of them in a very organized way, right?
Great. Any other thoughts? Trustee Raimondo.
I agree with supporting all the three things we just spoke about, and I'm already just trying to figure out how to word this. So I'm listening. I'm very much listening. I'm just trying to figure that out. So I agree with all of it, and I think that we're so fortunate to partner with BOCES the way that we do, and I think it could just be added information around our special sauce.
I don't think it's a good idea to use North Star, though, only because that is BOCES phrase.
What did you use
I've
the term?
just recently they've really started using that
the
a
wing,
lot.
yeah, maybe the wing or whatever.
Wildly important goal.
Yeah, that's better actually. Anyways,
The wing. Oh, is that Franklin
or
Covey?
special sauce.
Okay. Well, we'll have to do our homework. Trustee Mitchell Morrell?
This is more just like general fantasy, but it's like, what if we could position ourselves as like, there's this school in the middle of nowhere, but it's super progressive, and like, the word could spread about that. Like, people are trying to decide where to live. I don't know. I just think like this could really be something.
Moderately progressive. Yeah.
Sometimes I feel like that.
Wordsmithing.
Right, we have to do some wordsmithing. So we have three ideas that we want to kind of mold into a statement, right? Are there any other ideas that we're trying to mold into this statement? Okay, so I think our mission, should we choose to accept it, is to start working on wording. And, we'll come back to our next board meeting with some words, more words, Trustee Mitchell Morrell?
I'm just wondering, is that the type of thing you can send over email, or we have to save it for the next meeting? Just the drafts, I mean.
Did we do a Google Doc last year? Yeah. Last year we did do a Google Doc, and we just started kind of working on it, and it morphed into what we adopted. Trustee Lynch?
Although what I remember is you had asked us to come up with our own goals, and then we read each of them, and then the district clerk collected all of them. So they had been read out in public, and I think then we went back and tried to talk about the ones we want to keep or where we could merge them. And thank goodness for Trustee Raimondo, who's able to always wordsmith these things. But I just flagging that because if there are other things that we wanted to address in our goals, we should probably talk about them publicly before we just throw them into a Google Doc and start wordsmithing is all I was suggesting.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And that's why I asked if there were any other ideas, because I guess the ideas are like the foundation of the goal, right? And then we have to find the right words to convey, I guess, our conviction about those goals, about those ideas. So, maybe we should start with ideas I'm saying that because Trustee Goodrich is not here tonight, and he may have something completely different. And then at the next meeting, we can review what we have, and we can read them out loud and talk about them again. I just hope that we can, kind of conclude, have our goals set, I don't know, by early October. I don't want to go too far beyond that because there is a lot to do this year. And we know that. Okay? Good? Great. Should we move on? Okay, on to our last discussion item is item 10.06, discussion of the NISBA proposed resolutions. And this is on the agenda so that we can just decide on adding an additional meeting date. And it is a board meeting, so we have to have our quorum of the board and our superintendent at that meeting. And we'll be discussing the NISBA proposed resolutions for 2024. Everybody has a copy that Amanda printed for us. Thank you. And then following that meeting, Trustee Knudsen will attend the training, and then also the business meeting where he'll be one of the folks representing us voting on on the resolutions. So we did have a few email conversations about when we might want to meet, and I'm hoping that we can do it the week of October 1st, and I believe October 1st, and I don't have my computer up, is a Tuesday. Okay. And that date works for many of us, and it is not the week of October 7th where Trustee Lynch is away, and we also have a board meeting that week. So to add another 3 or more hour meeting that week is going to be challenging, and I'd also really like Trustee Lynch to be able to attend. So does October 1st work for everyone? In the morning? Does that work for you? Okay. Yeah. So like 8:30 or 9? What's best?
Wait, what are we, in the morning, you mean?
Yeah.
I usually have to do drop-off, so like more like 9:30. Is that too late?
Does that work?
Where is this, Central?
Central.
9:30 is pretty much the earliest I can do.
So, oh yeah, that works. Yeah. So we'll go with that. Or 9:30 on the 1st. Are you okay? Oh. Okay.
I can try to change it, and maybe that should be the best way to go about it. We need a quorum, or do we need?
We need a quorum. I mean, we'll have a quorum, and I would love for you to be there. I understand that as a morning meeting, we may not be able to get everybody. Okay.
Would Monday be an option? Just the 30th? I'm just curious. I mean, does that work for you, Caroline?
Monday, so yes, that would be better. The 30th would be better.
I have something at 8:30, but I could probably be somewhere like 10:30 or 11. Too late? What about like the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th? October 2nd, 3rd, or 4th? Anyone? Oh, Thursday, the holiday?
Rosh Hashanah is on
Oh,
the
okay.
3rd, and the 2nd, I'm not available on Wednesdays. Okay. So why don't we go with the 1st at 9:30, and Trustee Jerome will try to make it. Trustee Lynch, did you say?
Yeah, I have a kid doctor appointment that morning, so the Monday the 30th, if that works for everybody, that would be my first choice. That was what I was saying. But if it doesn't work for you all, that's fine. I can try to get someone else to take my child.
I'm going to say it works for me only because I can't remember having anything on my calendar that date. I left home without my cell phone, and that's where my calendar is. I know. I don't have.
This policy is really taking.
Way to go, Trustee Bishop. Nice
Okay.
demonstration of.
Wow.
I can do the 30th and be late. Another option.
Yeah, that works, right?
All right. I will check as soon as I get home and email. Okay. And then if that works, we'll go with the 30th. At what time?
I prefer the earlier the better, but
9? Okay. Perfect. Thanks, everyone. Do we need a break? Everybody good? Okay, we'll move forward. On to consent agenda, item 12.01. The board recommends, The board recommends approving items number 12.02 through 12.06. May I have a first? Trustee Raimondo, second. Trustee Knudsen, any questions or comments? Trustee Lynch?
I reviewed the Schedule U and everything's in order.
Great, thank you. All right, any other comments? All right, we'll vote. Trustee Knudsen?
Aye.
Trustee Mitchell-Morell?
Aye.
Trustee Jerome?
Aye.
Trustee Lynch?
Aye.
Trustee Raimondo? Great, that's unanimous. Thanks, everyone. On to item 13.01. The Board of Education hereby approves items number 13.02 through 13.04, all contracts and independent contract retainers. May I have a first? Trustee Jerome, second. Trustee Raimondo, questions or comments? Okay, we'll vote. Trustee Knudsen?
Aye.
Trustee Mitchell-Morell?
Aye.
Trustee Jerome?
Aye.
Trustee Lynch?
Aye.
Trustee Raimondo?
Aye.
Great, that's unanimous. Thank you. On to committee reports. Item 14.01, 2, 3, 4, 5. Are there any committee reports? Yeah. Right. I'll just say the audit committee met yesterday as well on Friday. I'm sorry, policy. Hello. I'm looking at audit committee. Policy committee met yesterday also and reviewed a number of policies. That is a warning. The next agenda will be heavy. We apologize in advance. Trustee Jerome, would you like to talk about communications?
Yes, we actually hashed out the next board briefs. That is our email communication that hopefully lots of people picked up at Olive Day and are signing up for that. But just establish a framework, so that will be drafted and sent out to everybody to take a look. And then, dear Holly had her back went out, so we shortened the meeting, and we're going to join up again next week when she's not in pain.
Thank you. Anything to add, Trustee Lynch?
No, I'll just say that I was pleased that Holly was able to present the long-term strategy that we've been working on for a while, almost a year. So for those of you who are following that, she did give us a first take on it for us to react to, and that's what we'll address in the second meeting.
Great, thank you. Any other committees? Nope. Okay, great. On to 15.01, old business. Does the board have any old business to discuss? Trustee Lynch?
Yes, I just remembered what I was going to ask Superintendent after your report, but it is old business. I'm just curious, when we talk about the Phoenicia building and advocating for support from our executive county members and staff, can you help me understand, or could we have a discussion about what we are asking? Are we asking them to support the utilization of the building, full stop, or are we actually asking them to support the town of Shandaken to uptake utilization of the building?
My understanding is that the consideration at this point would be for the county, potentially in partnership with the town, to purchase the building. And I think that would be a wonderful partnership and collaboration and maintain that campus as an asset to the community. And I think just any encouragement to our representatives to work through that, so that that is the end result, and that campus remains an asset and becomes maybe even an integral part of the community, would be so beneficial.
That same token, can you tell us exactly who we should reach out to and support, or tell people to reach out to?
The conversations started with our county legislators, And the county executive, I believe herself, is coming to look at the campus as well.
Question, just as like
Trustee
a
Knudsen?
point of order question here. So when we're reaching out, are we reaching out in our own personal opinions as trustees? That the board really hasn't adopted an official position on this. How do we handle that aspect of it?
Thank you. I appreciate that clarification. A couple of board members had asked how they might support, and yes, it would be as community members and citizens.
Any other old business? Any new business? Trustee Mitchell-Morel?
I just hopefully didn't miss this, but in the spring we had that document with all the events. Do we have one for the fall? Because I found that very helpful.
The Google Doc that we could sign up for? Okay, great, thank you.
Now through December or something.
Great, good idea. Trustee Jerome?
Yes, that is a great idea. I was, but when we were at Olive Day, actually, I thought, oh, where is that document? So that would be, no, but saying that we should be out there consistently. So thank you for remembering that.
Any other new business? Trustee Raimondo?
I just remembered. Amanda, could you help us start the process of scheduling our school visits with the principals?
Yep, sure. I think last year we did them more towards the spring. Did you want to focus on that also?
It was freezing, I remember.
Yeah, it was cold. The year before we did it in the spring, this past year, it was more in the, it was cold. It was like January. So whatever works for the administrators is the goal, but just to get the conversation started.
Yeah, sure. I'll send an email tomorrow. Yep.
And also our BOCES visit, if you will. Any other new business? Any requests for information? Okay. Our next meeting is September 24th, and it will be held at Bennett. May I have a motion to adjourn? Trustee Lynch, second. Trustee Raimondo, all in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you.